Hello YouTubers, how are we today? Are we all good and we all well? Well, thank you for joining me on the video today. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons, that means a lot to me, and drop it in the comments box below where you're watching from. Thank you very much. Okay, this really is a YouTube video. Tube, underground, get it? Well, clues in the name is what we're going to be doing today. So let's just take the camera over here and hope you enjoy this one. So this is my 6x4 model railway that I recently built. It's DC analog for those of you who haven't followed it on the channel before or are new to the video channel today. It's called Little Beddington because it's only a small layout and it's built over the bed on some tables, which it gets put away at the end of the day when I'm not using it anymore, hence the name. Over here though, look at this. We've got these out of the box today. Ooh. These are exclusive first editions, or EFE, underground trains. Originally manufactured to be static models, which came on a plinth that you put on the shelf or in a display case. And that was the end of that. But a lot of us modelers out there, we railway modelers thought, oh, that's not good enough. We need to motorise these. Wouldn't it be nice if we could motorise them? And then a company out there, or one of many companies called Radley Models, in particular, poor old Phil Radley, who's no longer with us anymore, passed away recently. His company does the kits so you can motorise them. And if you look carefully on this channel through my video sections, you will find an upload that I did, taking you from step by step all the way through from the static model to a fully working model. And it's quite easy to do. I say quite, if you're not put off by using tools, hand tools, a Dremel, that sort of thing, then go for it. If you're a little bit unsure of how to do it, you can send it off to companies like Metro Models, which I think now are called Precision Paints or part of Precision Paints, I'm not sure. But anyway, look up Metro Models on Google and you'll find a link to the company. They will quite happily do it for you. And if you need the instructions in the meantime and you want to have a go yourself, if you message me and give me your email address, I'll happily forward the PDF file which I followed to do mine. Anyway, as mentioned, these are now working models. They're DC analog. However, they can be DCC fitted and converted if you want them to. There's two Tenshodo Spud motors in the lead motor cars. There's two of them Widen series. Originally I had these running on my old layout, Bentley Park, which was a 10-foot layout with fourth radius curves. This has only got in places second and first radius curves, so they are quite tight, and I was having some derailment problems recently when I tried these out, until I found out why. A number of factors. Number one, when I wired the motors together inside the chassis, that you'll see on the previous video upload I did of when I actually finished converting them and wiring them up, for some reason I just thought it'd be clever to put the wires underneath the ballast weights that go in the double pairs of doors there, so they're out of the way, hidden out of sight. Well, that looked nice, but when the bogies transverse curves and point work and they need to turn, the wires were very taut and they were pulling on the little ears that connect the motor tabs to the actual both sides of the motor poles for the pickups. So in terms of wiring, the wiring was very taut and it wasn't allowing the bogie to swing correctly left and right. It's the same principle if you've got an old Hornby Class 37 loco, something like that. Normally Hornby fit a pickup wire that goes from one side of the motor to the lead bogie pit, and there's a pickup point for it on all the old DC locos from Lima and Hornby, single cable. And if that's too tight, what happens is the bogie won't turn properly and you'll get derailments. That's exactly, in layman's terms, what was happening with these. So what I had to do is basically take the wire out and put it on the surface more inside the car and disguise it with some black heat shrink so it doesn't stand out too much, and that seems to have solved the problem. You might want to sit down steady for the next comment, what I'm about to say, so prepare yourself. You might need a glass of water, you might need some medication afterwards, but I'm using the original EFE wheel sets. Shock horror, you may say out there. They do work. And why am I using them? Well, excuse me. Again, I'm a bit of a cheapskate. And I think we all have to be a cheapskate in the hobby up to a certain extent. Am I going to get new Metro model wheels for these? Maybe. I don't know. But these work quite well. And the reason they work quite well is, number one, if the wheel itself, i.e. the axles and flange that go together to make the assembly of the wheel set itself, if that's nice and true, it's not out of shape, the wheels aren't bent or misaligned, and it's okay, you can use them. Just make sure you clean the flange surface, obviously. But here's the trick. If you take a mouse tail file, which is a very round needle file basically, and you open up the axle box bearings on each side of the actual bogie truck where the axles actually will sit, open it up a little bit and then apply some Loco lube oil, and you'll have a very free running bogie wheel set. That's basically what I did. And as you'll see in a minute, they run pretty well. So let's get this underway and we can have a little look. Before I get this running, there's a purpose also to doing this video today. It's to show you something different. So it's not all steam trains and diesel locos and breakdown cranes and whatnot. There's something different today to have a look at. Bachmann do a ready assembled motorized fully functional 4-car motorized 1938 stock, which you may have seen and may not out there. They are fastly becoming like Rockinghall Studio. They are very, very scarce now. I think they're about £399 for a 4-car set, but they are lovely. They come with illuminated interior, they're DCC ready, you can put sound chips in them and bits and pieces, but they're still using the old original EFE mouldings, which you see here. My 1938 stock has a slight few differences on them, which are accurate and correct to the real train. So I'll show you when it comes round. Let's get things running, shall we? Right, mind the doors. Right, ding from the guard. Righto driver, wind it up. Here she comes, all the way to Golders Green. One of the things you notice is the step plates on the doors. They're painted like an aluminium chrome colour. That's one thing. And the interior of the driving cabs on both ends have been painted on both ends inside that cerulean blue, which is actually London Transport green. As you can see there inside, it's got the 4-5 marker lights on the front. And as mentioned, it's got the aluminium polished step treads, which is correct. Not too shabby, is it, for a DC model on analogue with EFE wheels? So one of the things I was thinking about, the reason me doing this video is to show you obviously these trains running today for a little bit of entertainment, something different, isn't it? But also, I'm thinking about installing the 4th rail and putting some cable runs on there and having a little bit of London Transport, because I am at heart quite an avid London Transport fan. Not the modern day crap, but I mean the vintage stuff like this. London Transport in the 1950s and 60s, that's my favourite time. I'll just bring this round one more time and then I'll show you something interesting that might be helpful to you guys out there who've got one of these maybe, or maybe you've motorised one yourself and you're having a few little issues. I'll just show you something. Hang on. Let's put the stick back. Whoa there, driver. Shut off. There we go. A little bit of Westinghouse at the end there. Just out of curiosity, right, as mentioned, this is Little Beddington, my layout. And because of the nature of the track work and the design that I followed, it involves some very tight radius curves, which include the R605 Hornby first radius curves, and the 607, I believe, second radius curves. They are pretty tight. 605 first radius being the most tightest. I don't really like too much, but because I had to have the passing loop over there, it's the only way of putting things in if I want that to be existent. So basically, these trains don't mind curves too much, but the problem we've got is, guys, is not so much the bogies, but this here. If you look in between the cars, you've got these moulded external handrails, obviously. They're a bit too chunky for my liking scale-wise. And as you can see, there's a little bit of daylight gap in between the further set. So you've got clearance to go around that radius curves. Otherwise, they buff up against each other and prevent the train from running, and you get derailments and all sorts of problems. So what I've done, I'll move this by hand, so I'm not sure which one it is, but I'll show you something interesting. Not that one. Did I do it on this one or not? I'm not sure. Do you know what? I think I did it on the other train, but basically, I'll show you in a minute. But what I did, these handrails, I took a flat file and just removed a little bit of surface material and took them back a little bit on both sides of the carriage, so that when they go around a curve, they don't rub up against each other, if that makes sense, if you can understand what I'm talking about. So it reduces any possible friction, so you create a little bit more of a gap. So that helps, rather than re-drill a coupling bar and extend the coupling. So basically that's one way of overcoming that problem that I found. Anyway, I think what I'll do, I'll get this onto the centre platform, and then we'll get the good old Silver 62 out, shall we? Right. Okay. Oh, something else I did on this is custom little finish as well. You won't find on any EFE or Bachmann EFE rail model. Is this. Just below the cab door, there's a step iron, which is prototypical. And that's basically a bit of an old signal ladder, cut, super glued, and painted in place. But I've done that on both sides and on both driving cars. I've yet to paint these wheels. It's another little job I'm going to do today, actually. After the video is finished, I'm going to paint these wheels black. And I've never actually painted those. Got round to it, but yeah. Right, so as mentioned, we'll get this on the way. There it goes. Shutting off. Ooh, look at that. Beautiful. Right, what we'll do now, come round here. We'll change those points off camera. I'm back round here, so it keeps you fit, doesn't it, model railway? Who wants to sit in a lazy boy chair and push buttons when you can walk around your layout and do it manually? Right, okay. Let's get this on the way. Here it comes. Ding. He's got the bell from the guard. Here she comes. These are the trains I grew up with on the Central Line. These trains. Oh, Little bit of a hesitant stall there, but she's away. And again, these particular trains as well, I've done a few little custom finishes on. Again, for some reason, they didn't paint the sensitive door edges down the middle of the doors to simulate the rubber edges in between. And I've done that on these, the permanent marker, Sharpie marker, as you can see, a bit better. Yeah. So I think what I'm going to do, particularly, I'm going to get round to laying some third, or should I say fourth rail, on the layout on one section with some cable runs to bring it back to LT. Because if I'm going to actually run these on a permanent basis, I need to obviously have the proper fourth rail laid so it looks the part. That's just my prerogative anyway, but I'm really happy I've got these running actually, so they're not sat in the box anymore. And I say, oh, I can't run them anymore because the radiuses are too tight, but apparently they seem to be okay. I love that track joint sound as it goes over there. It's really good. I'm going to slow this down a little bit and show you something what I was trying to explain to you earlier. Yeah, about the clearances. Here we go. There we go. That's what I want to show you. I'll put the phone just on the pond so it won't get wet. Don't worry. Yeah, there we go, guys. If you can see where I filed away the material there on the fake handrails there. So we've got a very, very thin but workable clearance, which is perfect. So we don't get any binding with the cars going around curves. It's just the nature of the beast, and unfortunately the couplings that I designed myself for these are using the original EFE coupling bars. I modified them with some screws and bits and pieces to make them fit. On the old layout, like I mentioned, they went around fourth radius curves and third radius curves, no problem. But because we've got tighter curves in this layout, luckily that was the way that I overcame that problem with the cars binding too much and catching between cars. So luckily I didn't have to alter the couplings, so that was one way I got out of that problem. But I'm so pleased I've done that. So now they run, and they actually work okay, and they do run. So there we go. Anyway, that's about it today from the video. So I hope you enjoyed this little underground venture, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Mind the doors.